Okay, so welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom, our speaker series with Woman Worth and Wellness. I'm Crystal Kaufman, excited to bring you our next speaker. This is April the 30th with Heather Tulk. We'll get to hear a little bit about Heather here shortly. First, I want to turn it over to Nancy. Tell us how this Pearls of Wisdom series got started, a little bit more about Woman Worth and Wellness.
It'll only take a couple of days to do that. But anyway, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Women Worth and Wellness was founded in 1994, and basically the main issue is the intersect between women's health and women's wealth. And this is a determined passion of mine, is to bring those two together as an intersect. And we know that women are earning a whole lot more. We also know that women are stewarding a whole lot more through philanthropy. And my mission is to really work hard to get women to really step up and make all the differences that we know you can with your wealth. But at the same time, you can't do any of that unless you're healthy. So health is the cornerstone. And this is the year of the fire horse, which is all the things that women love to learn to step up and make that difference. It's about courage. It's about being bold. It's about action. It's no longer just having a plan. It's like, you know what? Make it happen. Before Crystal introduces our guest speaker, and Heather is fabulous. She's going to talk about imagine IA or AI and humanity in the same sentence. I mean, really. Who would ever have thought that this would be a topic? But she's an excellent resource. And I'm really teeing everybody up who's on to make sure you ask questions because the rest of us learn when you ask your question. But I would like to thank the sponsors first. Crystal is a sponsor and Libby Crombie is a sponsor. I think Rose is on too, but just take a minute and Crystal, tell us what you do and how it enhances people's businesses. And Libby, tell us about real estate in the county.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So, my company is Step by Step Business Solutions. We help you bring your brand online. So, whether that's webinars or speaker series, podcasts, anything like this here, where you need to have your message out to the world, we help bring that online to get you in front of more people. Or whether you're building a website or want to do that social media that everybody dislikes doing, we happily do it and we take it on for you. So, that's just a little bit about us. Libby, I'm gonna turn on your mic there. Tell us a little bit about you. Oh, you are muted, my dear. There you
There
are.
we go. Hi. Well, it's spring here at last in Prince Edward County. I don't know about the rest of the world, but we have a nice day here today, and the real estate market has shown signs of improvement, certainly on the days that are bright and sunny. I held an open house yesterday and for agents, and I was really pleased that 16 agents came for Picton. That was a huge turnout. So I was very pleased, and I think it's indicative of the fact that they have more clients to serve and to show places to, so they want to come and see more what's happening here as well. But the market is picking up. Belleville, which is not the county but very close, has a different price point for sure, and they are having quite a busy time. Our area is more for retirees or people that maybe want to reinvent themselves. Belleville is more of a workforce, and so we have lots of beautiful places, lots on the market, and lots to sell. And I think that being a buyer's market, it's a good time for people, and to invest if they feel confident. That's the trick because there's so much stress in the world. But I think that with the Bank of Canada keeping the rate at 2.25 yesterday, I think that was a good indicator that maybe would be it's a good time for people to buy the property that they find that is the property of their dreams. And it's hard to tell whether things will go down or up. They will eventually go up. They may go down in the meantime, but if you're buying it for a 5-year term or 10-year term, then I think you can feel pretty confident that if you found the place you love, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do now. So we're encouraging people from the city because with all the weather that we had this year, since Christmas. We've had a lot of difficult weather and difficult travel weather. So we're starting to see people come because they feel confident there's not going to be a snowstorm, even though there was one in Alberta last week. They had a blizzard, but yeah, but not here. So I feel that things are improving. It's a spring market, and I hope it stays. Last year's spring market was very short lived, but all the news broadcasts are not saying great things about real estate. They're a bit on a downer about it, and that doesn't help either. It doesn't help people feel confident. But I think there are certainly opportunities for people if they can have the confidence to move forward. And the county is a great place to live, right, Nancy?
Of course. And of course, I haven't been here as long as you, but the 6 years that I have been here, it has been a pleasure because not only is this area beautifully, from a geographical standpoint, the people here are exceptional. I mean, you just keep on meeting more and more and more amazing people. And of course, comes with that is all kinds of amazing events. So Libby and I knew one another in Toronto, like Heather and I knew one another in Toronto. And Crystal's been working with me since 2019, so I'm delighted to be doing everything that I'm doing with all these lovely people doing what they do. This speaker series is virtual, but I want to remind people to mark your calendars for December the 2nd in Toronto. It will be in person, and I'm just in the process within the next month of getting that whole agenda together and our guest speakers and what that will all be. But it will be a terrific day, and I really hope that everybody will join the fun. Crystal, over to you.
Yes. Well, thank you. I am super excited to introduce our speaker today, Heather Tulk. So, oh my goodness, her resume is very intriguing and interesting. So, not only is she a two-time winner of Canada's Most Powerful Women Top 100 and has been named to the Canadian Board Diversity Council Diversity 50 and Canada's Top 40 Under 40. She leads her teams and currently leads Carler Advisor, a firm providing direct counsel to C-suite executives on strategies and innovatives that matter the most. So she's going to be talking to us about AI. This is such an interesting topic. And I've heard so much controversy. I use it in my business as well. So I'm very excited to learn about it. And it's all about leadership in the age of AI, our accountability to keep humanity in the loop. So, Heather, I turn it over to you. Talk to us about what this is all about.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. Happy to be here today. And Nancy, thank you very much for the invitation. Obviously, AI is a topic that could go anyway, so I'm happy in the Q&A to answer any questions people have. But in the meantime, I thought I'd really focus in today, talk about humanity in the loop. If you're aware of AI at all, there's a concept in AI of human in the loop, which is the concept really came out of the idea of who's controlling the AI, who's setting the standards for the AI, et cetera. And myself, I'm not alone. I think others have done it, but I kind of said, it's interesting. Human in the loop is needed because that's the mechanics of how you operate it. But really what we need to make sure is that humanity stays in the loop. So, we are in an era, a revolution, if you want to say, dominated by silicon and algorithms. And it's interesting. I think there's a lot of people who are, using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, almost as a replacement for Google, which is fine. And certainly it can be, and Google itself has added that in. It's showing up in a whole bunch of places. But I think a lot of people still are just starting to maybe grasp onto how big of a revolution this is. So if you think of every other industrial revolution that we've come through in modern times, whether it's the printing press, the steam engine, the internet, which led to the whole digital revolution of the last 20 years, AI is all of that and more. And the only difference between the emergence of AI and those revolutions as each successive revolution in mankind has had, is the speed of this. This is change. The digital revolution moved at a speed that was a magnitude of the industrial revolution, and the printing press and the steam engine and how those drove change, because it was the first revolution that truly impacted, oversaw every organization and everything that people were trying to do in their lives and businesses were trying to do. AI is like that, but moving much, much faster even than that did. So those of us who were around before the internet was widely deployed, I get to tell my kids I worked on, that I built the internet, because I actually worked early in my career on actually rolling out internet service to homes and businesses across Canada. The we had no idea what it was going to do. We thought that I remember being in meetings in those days saying that, this is going to be so big. Someday people are going to ask your email address and expect that you have one. And we thought that was kind of where this was going to go. And obviously, if you look back now, I mean, that was in the days pre-Google, pre-Facebook, pre-social media, pre-digital automation of any sort. And you look at how digital and access to the internet has taken over everything, that gives you a flavor of what AI will do. AI will be everywhere, underpinning everything. And interestingly enough, I believe that will happen faster than the digital revolution did, which really happened over 15 years. Still ongoing, obviously, but really it was 15 heavy years of revolutionary change. I think AI will be 5 to 7. Nobody knows, me included, but that's my perspective from what I'm seeing so far. So the shift is happening now. You're not waiting for something in the future. It's occurring in real time. And people who think it doesn't impact them are wrong. Just like people who thought digital wouldn't impact them were wrong. Industries are being rebuilt as we speak. The scariest part of this revolution is people talk about AI is going to take every job. People thought digital and the internet would take every job. People thought, the printing press would take every job, would cause people massive waste. What's different here, I think, is, and worries me the most, I'm not worried about AI necessarily taking people's jobs. I think it will create many more new jobs than the jobs it removes. But because this is happening so fast, the ability of our society to manage the shock of that change will be unlike what we've seen in the past. So, and that's why you're seeing organizations announcing, really unheralded levels of job reduction in certain areas, because AI is changing their world much faster than others have. The actual endpoint is likely very similar. Those jobs will change, new jobs will come in, but the pace of this is happening fast, and it's not something we've seen. And as a society, that's what worries me. And so, and I know governments, et cetera, are really involved in trying to think through how to address that. I think it's something we all as citizens could get more involved in. I think we all should be really paying attention to how that shift is happening and how we're going to manage it. But on a basic level, what I want to talk about today is what's interesting about AI, I believe, is that although it's a technology that will shift the way everybody does everything and will do a lot of things for us that we used to do ourselves, I believe in the age of AI, human leadership will matter more than ever. And I'll take you through that. And that's a paradox. AI is everywhere doing things humans did, and yet the humans and the roles of humans in the mix of this is more important than it's ever been. So that's a true paradox that I think we have to be aware of and really paying attention to. Automation will commoditize technical tasks, whether that's technical tasks, of providing customer service, which is obvious, doing coding, which is another obvious one, basic accounting, basic law research, every industry you think through. But it's also really, it will move to very enhanced technical tasks. So if you think about, if there's anything in your job that you can easily explain to someone else how to do, that will be done by AI. I believe that. So if you think through that and you go, wow, like there's a lot of things in my job I could easily tell someone what to do, that will be automated, no doubt. What's harder to automate and more important that we don't is the soft skill sides. So if you think of when you're talking with your mentors, I know we all have mentors, and they're asking us questions like, well, how do you coach people to be better? And y'all struggle with, well, I kind of just know how to do it now. And those things are much harder to automate, and those soft skills will become the differentiators of people in the future. So the people who will thrive in this environment are the ones who bring those soft skills of empathy and inclusion and critical thinking to the table. And skills that could easily be replicated or taught will not be as important for you as a human to know in the future. So if you think in that context, AI is not going to replace your job, but AI will be the co-worker of your job. And so you have to know how to pair yourself with the AI around you. And when you pair human intuition and human critical thinking with AI's processing power, you really can achieve exponential leadership. And that's why I find it really exciting. AI will provide us as a society the ability to lead at a scale and speed previously impossible. Organizations, economies, societies who get ahead of this and really dig into taking advantage of this will be the productivity winners of the future and will be the most competitive in the set. But it's on all of us, and the time is now. And I think we need to do more at thinking about how training everyone on what's important to use AI responsibly and not let AI get away from us, and to really make sure that humanity and those human skills are kept in the loop. So a friend of mine, some of you know, Josephine Yam, who runs a great AI training organization. She's been head of this for a number of years. It really has talked about the idea, and she trains on the idea of responsible AI imperatives. And I'm going to share with you a slide that I adapted from some of her work. But I'll take you through that. But I think it's an excellent slide. Hopefully you can all see this. It's an excellent, am I sharing? I don't see it on my screen. Is it on yours?
I can see it.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Yeah, I just see your lovely picture, Crystal. So, so if anything goes wrong, you have to tell me. But so there's really 4 imperatives for responsible AI, and I'll start with the inner circle on this chart. The first is AI technical fluency. As a leader, you need to make sure you have real people in place who understand the tool well enough to direct it effectively. These are very rare skills right now, and very important skills. And so you can either have it in your organization, or if you're a small organization, you can find a really great partner. There's some great companies doing this. But you have to make sure, and I'll get to a little bit later why it's so important, you have to make sure there's real people who understand what's going on and are directing the AI. So that's the first level, because you can't detect and mitigate AI risks if you don't know what it's doing. And if you don't know how it's evolving itself and what the pattern prediction it's using is, and making sure that it's using that correctly. The second one, and obviously a lot of people talk about this a lot, is data privacy and security. If AI runs on data, data is the oxygen and the food and the water of AI. So before you can safely use AI outputs, you need to know what data you can safely bring into public AI tools without breaching confidentiality and privacy. You need to protect your data and AI tools from external threats, so intrusion, misuse, bad actors, it's all going on. Because when you mishandle or expose data, you're not just risking regulatory fines, you're betraying the trust that enables your professional relationships and your entire organization, because it underpins your customer franchise. So data privacy and security is also one of the big imperatives. The third one is AI ethics. So this is where you learn to ask, is the AI system fair? Is the AI system transparent? And is the AI system accountable? So you need to be consistently having, automating and looking at the audit methods using AI principles that, there have been many now embodied in the UNESCO and OECD global frameworks, but it's really, really important because AI uses pattern matching to predict outcomes and to predict things. So, as an example, if you're using AI tools to screen applicants to come work in your company, it's going to use things such as if you have information about your most successful engineers, it's going to use that information to predict who's your next most successful engineer. So if you have an organization where all your engineers are male, or the majority of them are, it's going to assume that that is something that's important in an engineer. So the same way, if you're hiring for executives and most of your executives are male, or most of your executives are white, or whatever the case is, it could easily assume that that's an important characteristic for future hiring and immediately screen out people. And it screens out people way better than we can. It can screen out people based on their name, based on where they live, based on their postal code. So all these things are really important. That's just one example, but that same example can come if you're using AI to engineer airplanes. It can make false assumptions and false predictions that can lead you to some pretty dangerous places. So really important that you're using those AI frameworks, fair, transparent, accountable, to make sure that the system is working that way. And then the final step is really human rights and AI governance. So you have to ensure that the technology is respecting the fundamental beliefs and liberties of the society you operate in, that your customers operate, or patients, or whatever the case may be, operate in, and the society that we jointly want to build. And that's where humanity really comes into this. Everything legal is not moral. And AI operates within frameworks that are usually built in companies, rightly so, around legal frameworks, compliance frameworks, known risk frameworks. Because historically we've relied on humans. Some would argue how successfully we've relied on this, but we've relied on humans to be the ones to say, well, yeah, I know, okay, it's legal, but it's just not right. It's just not what we want to do. It's not what I think our customers would expect of us. Well, in a world of AI, you have to make sure those models are able to apply that judgment. And you have to use human rights and the high standards of human accountability, because there is a delicate but existing safety net in most companies today. It breaks all the time. We read in the paper. But for the majority of cases, it works, where the human morality is a safety net to bad action in your organization. When you have AI coming in, you're breaking that safety net. And so you have to make sure you're really paying attention to this and you're setting the values under which your AI is going to operate. So these are really all very important imperatives. I mentioned, the transparency, fairness, and accountability. So what do they mean? Transparency, no black boxes. We have to know how decisions are made in the tools. Fairness, we have to actively seek out and mitigate the bias in the data. And accountability is a really important one. You need a human accountable for everything, because the algorithm can't be fired, disciplined, go to jail, publicly shamed. However you control bad actors in your organization, the algorithm can't be controlled by that. So every decision, you need an accountable human, not the algorithm. You need humans who you're accountable for the outcomes of that tool, and they know they're accountable for the outcomes of that tool. Because otherwise, there's no way to monitor the behavior of your algorithmic company, if you think of that. So that's really important. And why that's really important is because, sorry, I'm just going to stop sharing here for a second. Why that's really, okay, so it won't let me stop sharing.
Yep, you're stopped sharing. We see you now.
Oh, okay, it did? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't use Zoom very much. I use mostly Teams and Meet, so I think I've lost my Zoom skills. One thing that hasn't changed in AI is that trust is the most important currency of leadership. So what AI has done is put that trust at risk in whole new ways. And AI without responsibility will certainly erode trust. Without the ethical framework we discussed, or I took you through earlier, AI becomes a liability that destroys both brand and team morale. Leadership is impossible without trust. And in the AI age, you earn trust by showing your team that you can lead the technology safely and effectively. And that's going to become more and more important for all of us over time. So, how do you build the skills that allow you to ensure you maintain trust? Uh, there's a great thing in AI where I actually think AI is going to bring on a world, in 10 years, 20 years, 5 years. I'm hoping I'll be still around to see this. But I think it's going to actually bring a world where the skills that I have always believed, and I'm biased, of course, but that I've always believed are the most important in the workplace are actually more important than ever. Because no longer will people be able to succeed on technical merit and technical skill. They will have to succeed on the basis of the humanity they bring to the table. So there's a super six, I call it, of human skills that I think we all should be doubling down on, doubling down in ourselves, doubling down in our teams, doubling down with our children, doubling down in the education system. And these are creativity. So AI, as I mentioned, pattern matches based on past data. It's up to us as humans to bring the creativity of the what if, the what next, the what's new to the table. Always that's been important, but that I think will be amplified in the age of AI. Curiosity, which goes with that creativity. So asking the questions, why, what if, asking them both about the outputs of the model, the building of the models, but also of the business problems that you're facing that you can now use AI to solve. And you can use AI to explore the what ifs and the whys. And so it will allow us to turn our curiosity into outcomes much faster than in the past. Adaptability. I think the next 5 years in particular, at both the micro individual employee level and the macro company wide and society wide, the amount of change that's coming at all of us by the way people and companies are going to use AI is going to bring a new level of adaptability that we're going to need that we haven't seen before. We're going to have to know how to thrive in an always in beta world where things are changing all the time, right angle turns all over the place as people figure out what works and what doesn't. And the speed of change is now AI enabled, AI amplified. Empathy and collaboration. So, how do we build the human connections that drive teams? Ensuring that connection happens at an emotional and personal level to keep the teams united so that they can deal with that level of change that's coming at them. And I think really important with the empathy and collaboration is I think more than ever before, that's going to be required to engineer hope. There's a time we're in a time not just because of AI, because of wars around the world, because of distrust that's happening, because of the failure of trust in institutions that's happened over the last decade, to the economy overall and the fragility of our economies around the world. Hope is really at risk, particularly in youth. And so your ability to have empathy and collaborate and keep the team connected to each other is your best antidote to the loss of hope and the best way to engineer hope. So that's going to be really important. And then ethical judgment. So how do you make the tough calls when there's no clear data? It's interesting how fast we're becoming reliant on AI. And I'm seeing it in the workplace all the time, seeing it in myself. Um, Sometimes, just like Google, took away the ability to use the encyclopedia. No kid in the world even knows what an encyclopedia is anymore. AI is unfortunately starting to take away our ability to make judgment calls. And because we are stopping doing it, we're asking AI to do everything. And therefore, our brains are rewiring themselves in a way that's not particularly helpful to this. But the paradox of that is it's more important than it's ever been because AI is often wrong. AI hallucinates. AI can be tricked by bad actors. AI can be manipulated, and we trust it. Now, the great news in that is that youth don't trust it because they don't trust anything. So that's helpful, I think, is a problem. But for us, AI puts it in writing. So people in our generation believe it's like when we used to read it in the Globe and Mail. Well, if we saw it there, it must be true. Well, it's not. In Josephine Yan's organization, I mentioned in our training, they do a great exercise where they ask you to build a report with AI and ask it to cite its sources, which is a really good practice if you're doing something in AI. So when I did this exercise, as part of that, I did this, built this report, asked it for its sources. It came up, I think it had 23 sources. But then her work takes it a step further, and you go back and you say, okay, take the sources you provided and go and check for each source 3 things. One, does that source really exist? 2, did what the report quoted from that source actually exist in the source? And 3, was the way it was used in the report actually match the intent of when it was published in that source that existed? So when I asked those 3 questions of the 23 sources that have been provided to me in this, and by the way, when I read this AI report, it was fantastic. I was like, oh, that's all great. And it's well sourced and it's really true. Well, it turns out 11 of the 23 sources actually didn't exist. The AI have made them up to build a case for what it thought the report should say. Of the remaining sources, half of them, the source did exist, but that quote that it had used never actually existed in the source. And then half of the last ones, where yes, the source existed, yes, the quote was in there, half of those had used that quote in a different context than it had been originally intended. So that tells you why ethical judgment is so important. You must challenge the AI all the time, and you must check it all the time. So that's why I think these skills are really the super 6 of leadership going forward. So you have to lead it, I guess, is the answer. To be a leader in this age of AI, you have to really lead, maybe more than we've ever had to lead before. You have to be the one to set the vision, of course, but you also need to question the output when it feels too easy or too biased. And you have to be constantly feeding it. And you can't let the algorithm set the culture of your company. You have to set the culture, and the algorithm has to follow suit. So there's a lot of talk about the singularity. If you do any reading in AI, the moment when AI will surpass human intelligence, I think that actually will happen, which is scary and also incredibly fascinating. But I want to talk, what I want you to think about is the humanity. The moment we realize that the more digital our world becomes, the more we crave the human. And I really do believe that the most successful businesses in the next decade won't be the ones with the fastest processors. They will be the ones that use that processing speed to create more time for human connection, more room for empathy, and more space for ethical reflection. And I think that's the essence of exponential leadership in AI. So the future isn't something that's going to happen to us. It's got to be something we build. I'll leave you with this and love in the Q&A to get a discussion about it. In the age of AI, what kind of leader will you be? And the pearls of wisdom, I guess, that I find in this change is it's in a time where we are going to have to constantly adapt our leadership in this changing world. We as humans are accountable for what happens here, every human. And none of us should think we can leave it to, nameless, faceless regulators to keep us safe. They won't. Every human needs to have this accountability. And the final pearl is, the things that make us strong will make us stronger, and resilience and grit are needed now more than ever. So that was what I was going to cover.
Oh my God.
Nancy and Chris.
Heather, we need to have about a month with you. Oh my goodness. But I'm so delighted that you are working with C-suite and CEOs because they really need your help. And good for you to remind them about humanity because it's so easy to get caught up and it's like, the logo of Women Worth and Wellness is like, yes, I've got this, I've got everything working. But these days everybody's like, ah, how do we engage? What do we do? And then you retreat because it's like you're kind of nervous and you're scared of it. But I heard some webinar that I was on is no longer is it a tool, it is a partner. So when we all have partners, we've got to establish that positive relationship with our partner and not let the partner be doing all the driving the bus all the time because we think they know more than we do. And so, I've got a million questions here, but trust is more important than ever. And human morality is going to be the AAA1 priority for leadership. Amazing. So I'm not going to hog all the airtime. I'll let others to ask questions. We've got Agnes, our good friend, our fellow IWFer, and Christy Kelly and Libby. She may have a question. Mona, she's in Beirut, and she got out of Beirut the day after she was our guest speaker, and then she went back because it's her homeland. So
Oh,
Mona, what's your question?
just trying to get her online here. There we go.
Mute.
Oh,
All
there we
right.
go. I hear
Oh, okay.
you.
I'm muted now.
We can
No,
hear
we
you.
can hear you. We can hear
Oh,
you.
you can. Oh, okay. Great, great. Nancy, hello, 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 everyone. Heather, this was, what can I say? I have been, every word you have said has instigated a question in me because I'm one of those people who I love technology and I use it all the time. But somehow with AI, I feel like we have been attacked at a very fast pace, and people are, even some people that I know, are abusing the use of AI. They are not really abiding by everything that you have said, the ethical part, the human part. And one of my concerns here is how this AI world is going to trickle down to our schools and universities, where we know now that the job of the future has to have that AI component in it. And you need to instill it in people when they are still young. How is the education world going to cope with this? Is there any
Yeah.
mechanism that's being put in place?
Well, I think, lots of educational organizations and systems are are working on this at a furious pace. I think there's two things going on that I think are particularly dangerous. The first is there's a massive amount of investment being made in tools to try and prevent learners from using AI at all, which I think, first of all, is a bit of a fool's game. I think you're trying to put locks around things that aren't lockable, and also not preparing kids for the future reality of the workforce. And I kind of look at it no different than, when probably some of us on the call were in school, we weren't allowed to use calculators, when the reality is calculators actually helped us do the very rote things so that we could think of the bigger concepts faster. So I think AI is a bit different, but very much the same, but obviously more pervasive than just one subject, right? Every subject has AI. So I think that's one response that's going on that I don't believe is actually going to be effective at all, trying to curtail it. I think the more effective is educators who are really looking at how do we use it in the school system, and how do we use it to elevate the critical thinking of the kids, which I think is important because it is the skill. Now, well, the other thing I think, I hear a lot, and I know Agnes is a lawyer and she's on the phone, and there may be some accountants on the phone as well. In those two industries in particular, I hear them a lot saying, well, I don't know how our whole industry is going to work, because I'll use auditors as an example, so I don't pick on lawyers, but they say, well, the reason I'm a really successful senior partner in accounting, and I don't do, routine audit checks anymore, but the reason I'm so good as a senior partner is because I did that when I was young, and I really understand the nuts and bolts of how that happens and works, so that I can be a better overseer and I can apply better strategy to that now that I'm a partner. And so they think, well, now AI is replacing that routine audit work. So how are the senior audit partners of the future going to be able to be really great senior partners if they've never done the basic work?
Good point.
My answer to, and I think, lawyers say the same, as do senior executives, as do, customer engineers, everyone. Like, if you don't do the basic work, how do you ever get that journey? It's almost like the apprentice style of learning, right? You got to be the journeyman first and do the basics and work your way up. I actually think that's a very real concern. If you don't change the way you think about how you train a senior partner. And I think that if you're focused on how do I stop this so that the old way of training a senior partner can survive, that is a fool's game. And I think the same thing in the education system. You're thinking about how do I stop this so that the old way of learning math survives. That I don't think is going to work. I think what you have to do is say, okay, in a world where we no longer do that, what now does a senior partner need to know? And how does a senior partner learn that? So as an example, if I were hiring junior audit people out of a commerce program today, I would have a lot of my training going into a point I made earlier. How do I get them to understand what actually happens in AI audit models? How do I get them to know how these models work inside and out so that they can audit, is the model working right? Is the model bringing the right results back? Is the model getting me the right data to be effective? Is the model acting ethically? Is the model acting without bias? And so, because in the future, that's what a senior partner needs to know, not how to actually do the test audits. So I think that's why I see some great educators really, and like there's some great work going on at Humber, some of the great universities, TMU, U of T, just here in Toronto. It's Canada-wide and global as well. But there's some great work going in educators who are thinking in that lens, which is, okay, so what do you need to know about math graduating the workforce in 2026 and 2030 and 2035? And how do we make sure kids are getting that, not what they needed to know about math when they were graduating in 1985? And because you have to think that, it's like a skate where the puck's going to go. Like, right. You're educating for the purpose of people being productive in society. And so what is that society going to look like? And how do we make sure we're educating for that purpose? And, The other thing I kind of, this is a bit of a soapbox, sorry for me, but I spent a lot of time on the Canadian Literacy Council, and I find it really interesting when people are saying, well, I don't think kids should be allowed to use AI in schools because they're going to graduate and they're not going to know, they'll like take this as a statistic. Canada is the most high, you heard Carney say it at Davos. Canada is the most educated society, one of the most educated societies on earth. And if you look at Canada Literacy Council statistics, I haven't checked the number recently, but the last time I looked a few years ago, less than 65% of Canadians have numeracy skills at the level needed to operate in the knowledge economy. The knowledge economy was defined 12 years ago or 15 years ago. So our education system wasn't doing a great job before.
Right.
In what people need to operate. And I think that's where we need to really put and by the way, there's a lot of great educators, and I'm very involved in the education system. There's a lot of great things happening, but I think we need to change the dialogue from how do we prevent kids from using AI to how do we teach kids to use AI correctly, and how do we help kids be prepared to be productive in a world that runs on AI.
Perfect. Agnes, do you want to comment, being a lawyer?
Well, actually, I was on a webinar recently, and on an employment law webinar, and they said that employment law cases are increasing because individuals that are, terminated and they want to have a wrongful dismissal. So they're running all their facts through AI, and it's telling them, oh, you got a great case. And so they said that they're not able to settle, it takes longer to settle at a bigger cost to the company because people are convinced, oh, my AI is telling me I got a great case. So I thought that was interesting. My question is, other than hiring you, but as a board director, where do we how do we get our directors trained on AI? What do
Well,
you
I mean, there's
recommend? There's lots
certainly,
of courses, like there's Rotman
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. So ICD has a course in AI governance, which I've heard. I haven't done it yet because the dates haven't worked out, but I've heard it's great. I did the Competent Board one, which is good. There's a lot of great reading. Actually, I can share it with Crystal, and she can share it with everyone. I actually did a reading list in January for top business books for 2026, and
Great. That would be super.
they're almost all as you'd expect about AI and humanity and AI, AI and ethics. And so,
Great.
So there's great books. And then there are a lot of, like, yeah, you joke about me, there's me, but there's a lot of people like me out there now who are teaching this. Like I would really looking at AI governance. I think AI governance is a really interesting area because there's a lot of gaps on boards with people who've, what makes a board director really successful? A board director is really successful by their ability to bring the sum total of their background around a table, hopefully fairly diverse with people who have different backgrounds, and question the strategy and the oversight and help with strategy and oversight of an organization. And for almost everybody who's considered board ready, who is a director, the sum total of that experience was built in a world where, at the best of luck, you've got someone who's really digitally native, but you certainly don't have someone who did a lot of their career in AI, because AI's only been in organizations commercially for like 5 years. So unless that person was active at the working level of an organization within the last 5 years, they haven't. So you need to really know which questions to ask. And the work that I shared here, and there's others you could readings, like it is about asking, like, how are you making sure the AI in your organization is transparent? How are you making sure the AI in your organization is acting ethically? How are you making sure it's accountable? And the other thing I'd be asking as a director is, what's your data and cybersecurity oversight? I think there's a lot of questions being asked by risk committees, which I think is great. But then taking that a next step further and asking questions like, so what's your accountability framework for all the people who are implementing AI in your organization? What are they being held to? what is their mandate, not with respect to the technical outcomes of the tool, but how it's operating in the way that our organization wants to act. And, like any other system, particularly in a large company, what's most important is that those are documented, those are trained to, entire executive team is being held accountable that that's in place, because they're not obvious. And the other thing that's really interesting about AI, in some organizations, some are doing better than others, but is a lot of the people working in the organization at the working level, the director level, the VP level, the CEO level, it's like, oh, I need to get AI because my board is telling me that it can make me more efficient, and everybody has it. So it's like the CEO's like, I need AI and I need it in blue because I've got to get
Quickly.
10% more. I need to get 10% more revenue, or I need it in red because I've got to get 10% of cost out. And so then they're sending it into the organization saying, so get me some AI. And then usually they're sending that to the CIO. And then the CIO is saying to his team, okay, get me some AI. And so they're either buying out of the box tools that really aren't built for purpose and someone else has set all the ethical mandates around, or the internal people they're using it are like a bunch of coding people. And by the way, incredibly needed skill of the future, data engineers, et cetera. But they're data engineers and coding in your IT department, not the actual groups who run these divisions, not the groups who understand what are we trying to do with our customers? How are we trying to provide service? What do we stand for as a company? What does our brand mean? And so making sure your entire organization, particularly, I would say at the director level, not board director, but organizational director, the director and VP level of an organization, making sure they all understand AI. Like when I go into an organization and I find out AI is happening only in the CIO suite, in the CIO department, I get really worried. Like you want to make sure like your lawyers, your accountants, the whole finance team, your customer service leaders, your marketing leaders, they all have to understand what we're trying to do with AI and how we want to do it. And that, because it's like, it would be like saying, the only people in the company who need to understand the financial reports are the finance department. Well, we'd all go, that's ridiculous. Of course, of course the marketing team needs to know their budget. Well, it's the same thing. It's going to be that prolific. It's like saying only HR needs to know how we evaluate employees. No, that's ridiculous. But so saying only CIO needs to understand AI is already, I think, and in the future, equally ridiculous to those statements if one was to make them.
Imagine the huge opportunity, and maybe you're already working with companies who are dealing with this, is AI and the emphasis on the skilled trades.
Yeah.
I mean,
Huge.
right off the bat, that's a huge opportunity, and good luck, getting that all online so that it's all streamlined and working well. But Heathers, thank you so much. I mean, this is amazing. And I hope you're booked for December 2nd because Cindy Gordon is also a speaker in June. So AI, maybe we'll take the whole day on AI. I don't know. But I think going back to Mona's point, is there an educational guru who is dealing with education right from start to finish, not university level, but now we're hearing that devices are not going to be allowed in the classroom. I mean, that goes back to your point. Rather than bring them in and let's find a way to help us help you use that tool effectively.
Yeah, well, so to answer your direct question, I don't know who the educational guru is. It's not my area, but I could certainly ask some others. But the interesting thing on devices, that I think that's an issue of addressing a whole other problem, which is, we could have another hour on social media and youth. But also another problem where, it's funny, I spent most of my career thinking my most valuable asset was my time. And I definitely believe that was true for most of my career. But I now think and not just for me, most valuable asset of people is the time. I actually now believe the most valuable asset for your people is their attention. And I think the devices in the classroom issue is less about trying to keep AI away from the kids, but actually trying to keep their attention in the classroom because they're spending their time scrolling their social
Right.
media and their
Right.
Snapchat when they should be paying attention to the learning environment. And the same thing happens like now in the virtual world we all operate in. You get on a Zoom call or attention, or Teams call or whatever it is, and you're supposed to be there for an hour or 30 minutes on a really important business subject. And executives included, 5 minutes in, you can tell everybody's doing their chat and figuring out their email and like maybe 7% attentive to the topic at hand. And then decisions get made and they get implemented. And then 2 months later, someone will say, well, how in the hell did that happen? And you go, wait, now, dude, you were on the call when we made that decision.
Pay
But
attention.
no one's paying attention. So
Mona, we can't go there because I'm going to have to turn it to Crystal. We promised people that we would finish sharply at 1,
Yes.
but definitely this is a huge, 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 huge
Mhm.
topic that we all are leaning into and trying to make sense of, and it will be a big part of December the 2nd. So book your calendar, and I know you're planning on coming, Mona, which is super. Heather, thank you so much. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And keep on doing all the great work that you're doing with all the clients that you have, because obviously it's needed more than ever.
Yes. I just
Crystal, over
want
to
to
you.
ask, I wanted to ask everything you said. What are your three biggest pearls of wisdom, if you could summarize it into three, um, about,
yeah, so I think I said at the end, like the need to constantly adapt your leadership.
yeah,
This world is changing all the time. The importance of making sure whether you're a director, an executive, or just a mom, not just a mom, most important job, but whatever venue you're operating in, human accountability and how are you holding people accountable as the human in the AI world and not letting people think, okay, the AI is now in charge. And then resilience and grit, like just your ability to just deal with this. It's good. There's going to be a lot of things go wrong with this, and a lot of things are going to cause a lot of pressure on you, and your ability to not have that go, okay, well, I don't want anything to do with AI. Like you've got to, and it's complex and it's different and it's tangly, and you just got to get in and learn it and keep learning it and keep trying it and keep figuring it out because it's here to stay and it is the world of the future.
And just human morality. You mentioned that in several different ways.
Mm-hmm.
How important that is what are your values? How do you know what's right and what's wrong? And given that you do, make sure you are acting with that in mind.
Yeah.
amazing.
It's been
Well, thank you.
amazing. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Heather. We could talk forever, but I will wrap it up and just mention now we are into May speakers, and we have two great, amazing speakers lined up for May, as well as it is Mother's Day. So let me first just share with you our first speaker is May the 6th. We have Baljeet, and Nancy was just talking about this at the beginning. And her talk is about health in 2030, personalized, preventative, and human. So, Nancy, can you say a little bit more about Baljeet?
Yeah, Baljeet is a huge champion for women's health and wellness, and she has a special session in South Africa as well, I think in November. And so we'll make note of that in as part of her follow-up next week, so that if people know contacts in South Africa, certainly Agnes and Heather, we know International Women's Forum there, so we can bring it to their attention.
Yes. And then we also are going to have a special little tribute to mothers. And because Women Worth and Wellness is all about our mothers and our daughters and our granddaughters, is that we encouraging women to share their stories about their mothers. What is it about your mothers, the pearls of wisdoms you learned from your mother? And so we're going to encourage stories of that and just sharing that within our community and to honor our mother, our lineage before us and after us. So those are the exciting things coming up for May.
And Carrie Buck.
Yes. I don't have any information about Carrie Buck. Nancy, can you
Okay,
tell us
we'll,
a little bit
we'll
about
get it.
Carrie?
She was the UN ambassador from Canada, or the Canadian ambassador to the UN. So certainly has lots of stories to share. And she's married to Michael Pearson, who is Lester Pearson's son or grandson. I think maybe grandson. Anyway, she certainly will have a lot to say. And that is May the, what is it?
13th.
13th. Okay,
Mhm.
terrific. And with regards to Mother's Day, we want people to share the 3 pearls of wisdom that they have learned from their mother, not as you as a mother and the 3 pearls of
Mhm.
wisdom that you've wanted your kids to learn. That's a separate topic. We just want you to profile the 3 pearls of wisdom that you learned from your mother. So just send it to us. We'll do lots of emails out to you. Just send them in. And we want to do a compilation at the end of May that basically is a recap of all of the different things that we've learned from our mothers, because we all know life is a continuum.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week for our next Pearls of Wisdom speaker.
And
Thank
where are
you.
your
Bye.
pearls, ladies? Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much,
much.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Heather. That
Bye-bye.
was super.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Good.